What's going on, guys? Seth and Chevy here, and we just watched Your Name,
必ず会いに行くって。
あなたは誰？
お前は誰だ？
君の名は
which is a movie that has to do with a boy in Tokyo named Taki who starts switching bodies with a girl named Mitsuha who lives in a small town. And yeah, they start switching bodies. They're living through each other's lives. There's a lot of confusion in the beginning, but they start communicating with each other once they realize that this is happening, trying to get to know each other, trying to relay what they're doing while they are visiting each other's worlds, essentially. And yeah, a lot of interesting, fun things happen with that. They start intermingling with their lives and changing things. And yeah, eventually they don't switch bodies anymore. And Taki essentially wants to locate where Mitsuha lives. And he goes on a train trip to a place called Itamori. Once he locates that place, he finds out that that actually was destroyed 3 years ago by a meteor that he actually was aware of but never thought about because it didn't happen where he lived 3 years ago. So yeah, that hits, shocks him, of course, because he's been sharing time with this person from 3 years ago, and now he's kind of taking in the gravity of the situation. He eventually travels to a location that he visited when he was in Mitsuha's body with her, what was it, grandma and sister. This shrine where they had put this sake that they had made. He goes there, drinks the sake. He's able to switch bodies with Mitsuha once again, and attempts to concoct a plan with Mitsuha's friends to try to warn the people of Itamori that a meteor is going to hit, but they realize they can't just tell people that, so they try to create this elaborate plan where they're going to blow up some power plants and do some terrorist shit and try to warn everybody that explosions are happening and forest fires are happening, and they have to leave essentially where the meteor impact zone is going to be. And yeah, it's this big elaborate thing. They end up meeting at one point face to face, where they get to meet each other and talk to each other for a second. But during the twilight phase, I think it was, I don't remember what they call it in Japanese.
Yeah.
They're then separated once again, and they are trying to remember each other's names and what they're even trying to do, since there is a separation in time by 3 years. I'm overly simplifying this.
Oh, yeah.
But just watch the movie. But yeah, eventually we find out 5 years later that people survived Itamori after this, and through some kind of long montage of scenes and characters and people living their lives, we are left with Taki actually running into Mitsuha in Tokyo, and the movie ends there, where they both feel and recognize that they know each other. And this will be the beginning of whatever comes next, but that's not there for us because it's a movie and it ends there. This is a full-length movie, beautifully animated with amazing visuals and heartfelt story. Chevy, what are your overall impressions of Your Name?
Yeah, so I don't really watch a lot of anime movies outside of like Studio Ghibli stuff and like the occasional, one here and there. So I heard everyone talk about this movie, and finally getting to watch it, and I can see why everyone talked about it. It is a beautiful movie.
Mm-hmm.
The scenes are completely gorgeous all the time. The environments and the way they like handle like the camera rotating around characters and stuff like that. Like it is top notch.
There's a really interesting individual style emphasis on the sky in this movie. There's so many sky shots in this movie, and they do such a good job at the colors of the sky, and obviously because like it's all about obviously the two characters, but the meteor that's going to come and essentially destroy Itamori. But you get like these big, huge vista shots, these those shots where it's panning around them, but yeah, the whole movie is just gorgeous from beginning to end, and a lot of it is these incredible sky shots you have with the backdrop of like the city or out in the country. I just really noticed that a lot. Is like all the different colors, the animations of the clouds, everything. Like there was so much emphasis on that.
Yeah, they also did a lot of low to the ground but angled up as well, so you like got the ground view but you were still kind of looking up towards the sky as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I as soon as it started I was like, oh yeah, no, this is definitely a movie. So I love that about it. I also enjoy, and this is something I kind of miss about movies in general, but I enjoy how in the beginning of the movie it's from the female character's perspective. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. Mitsuha. It's from her perspective. And she's kind of like being told that she was acting weird the day before and stuff like that.
There's a little bit of mystery to it.
And I was like, interesting. Like, where's this going? And then it shows Taki, right? Taki's perspective. And he's getting the same story. I'm like, okay. And it just slowly, it lets you like live in their worlds, their lives, what they go through and stuff like that. And we slowly kind of get it unfolded to us so that we can understand the situation, especially when the switch happens and then we get to experience it that way.
Especially when they kind of unveil that they're switching at the same time.
Yeah.
So it'd be hard to convey both of those at once. So it's like, oh, you're being weird yesterday. And then eventually you see them switch. And you're like, okay, oh, so when they're over there, they're over there. And yeah, then it starts like kind of rapid firing at the same time, them doing different things and kind of seeing what they're doing on both sides. But yeah, the beginning definitely kind of has like this unraveling of the situation.
Well, and I love that it takes its time. I mean, at some point, we had to take a small break about 30 minutes in, and we'd only seen the first perspective of each person in that time. So they really kind of let you soak it in, which is great because, a lot of times, especially in like shorter form content, they gotta do things faster. So I also appreciate the music. They did multiple different genres and did some really interesting stuff there. Especially they'd have music playing and then like an event would happen and then they'd use like these really crazy like sound effects to like just stop the music and like the scene would just like freeze for a second to kind of or like switch instantly. It was a lot of fun in that regard.
I actually really loved the music in this. It was very indie folky kind of, but it like it worked with the scene so well.
Yeah. And
kind of the emotions and just the overall atmosphere of this movie was very much complemented by the soundtrack.
Yeah. I also like that during the switches and stuff like that, the Taki whenever he wasn't there, what's her name again? Mitsuha was kind of like setting up a date for him, and that was working at first, but then when it was him and they did go on the date, the gal had kind of recognized that it wasn't him that she was like falling for, and I thought that was kind of an interesting moment as well, because she's like, are you sure you like me, like type of deal. So
well, it's not even just from her perspective of liking him or liking how he was when Mitsuha was in him, but also his interest in her was different because before she had sensed that he had like a crush, which is like, oh, I'm attracted to you, whatever. But then when Mitsuha is with her, they were like getting like to like along really well. Yeah. And so she was like, oh, like he's kind of attractive maybe, but also we get along really well. But then when he was in his own body, he's thinking about Mitsuha and what the fuck's going on with him and her. and she's going like, you're not even thinking about me. This isn't even the same dynamic. So she recognizes there's no connection there.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah, and I like the way that played out, even within their friendships and stuff like that. And like whether it was their family or their friends and stuff, they were just like trying to be supportive, but also like worried for them because it was very clear. They were kind of like having split personality disorder, basically.
I think it's funny on both of their ends. Their friends and everyone around them is just like, you're just acting weird. Like, what's going on? It's like you had amnesia. And then the next day, like, oh, you're back to normal. Like, whatever the hell that's about.
Yeah, it was well, even like when they're like telling her that, she had her hair down and it was all bedhead like, and then it shows a scene later where she's like kicking a desk because like, they're talking crap about her family and he's just not going to let that happen. I don't know. It was a lot of really, really good scenes in the movie for sure. And then, obviously them, slowly developing feelings for each other because they've spent so much time in each other's lives and have become invested in this event that's about to happen too. So, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I had a really good time with it. It was better than I was expecting. I didn't have a lot to expect from it, so that helped. But I knew it was going to be a good-looking movie, and it was actually better looking than I expected, which is great, especially for something that came out like 6 years ago at this point.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Because I remember when the reviews were coming out for this, and that was even 6 years ago, but it wasn't recently either, and everyone's just talking about how good it was. But everybody kept talking about the visuals, and anytime I saw a trailer, I'm like, oh yeah, it does look good for sure, but is the story good? And it is. It's a really good story. It's, got a lot of emotion, a lot of heart to it. So yeah, I also understand why people were raving about this, because 30, 40 minutes into it, I was like, oh yeah, this is really good already. But then it gets even better because the first act of the movie is really effective for the rest of the movie because you get the fun, they're switching bodies. That's so crazy. How are they going to react? And you're going through the fun things of like, he's touching the boobs going like, whoa, I don't have boobs. It's weird. And she's like going through like, being a dude and like, everyone's like, why are you acting like that? And she's being like really timid and stuff.
And like at one point someone says she's acting, or that he's acting super feminine and stuff like that. Yeah.
And that he's like sewing her skirt and stuff like that. Like all these things are fun. So you're getting to like the individual characters. And then as their relationship starts building, you start caring about them as a thing. And then it doesn't even really tell you a catastrophe happened until he goes to find her, which you want her to go find her. But then when he goes to find her, like, she's dead, and it's just like, whoa, it's like impactful.
My stomach sank a little when that happened. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's rough. So that beginning act is like really effective at making you already like the characters to the point where you don't want bad things to happen. You're not even expecting bad things to have happened, and then you're like, oh shit, she's dead. And then he's like, well, I gotta save her. I'm like, yeah, you gotta save her. Like, what the hell? So yeah, it's really good at that, especially within only like an hour and 40 minutes to accomplish that is really good. And even the side characters, like I can't remember any of their names except for Tessie. I think they were called Tessie, but they were all fun side characters. They did a really good job with that. Like they made you care about the other characters as well. And so when it comes down to saving Itamori, it's not just about saving her, which you want that to happen, but you also don't want her little sister to die or grandma to die. Her dad, obviously you don't want him to die, but he's kind of like a prick. But her friends, stuff like that. So there was a lot of weight to the situation that I wasn't really expecting. I thought this was going to be kind of like a fish out of water story, and it's like, whoa, how do they get out of that? Are they going to meet? But it like becomes something more, which I really enjoyed about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because like it's not just like they're living in the 3-year time difference kind of really throws
really
an interesting dynamic to the story. And time travel is tricky anyways because it come off really cheesy really easily, and I think they handled it very responsibly.
Well, the thing, responsibly is the word, because the thing I like is it's only a 3-year difference. And so that if she wanted to meet him during her timeline, he can't know who she is because he's 3 years in the past before he even ever knew of her.
Which
but
showed, yeah,
exactly, and it was perfect. And but But for him, he would have to be able to find her during his timeline, but she has to live and survive. And so it's interesting how they go 5 years ahead to keep the mystery of like, did she live?
Yeah.
But that way they can actually meet each other. It's not a huge gap. It's not like she's like 50 years ago and he's like,
right.
Has
he's
the
not
time
going to meet
travel
grandma.
to her. Yeah. They can actually meet each other.
Yeah.
As long as she lives, and that's the whole point. And as long as they can remember who each other are and all that stuff. So it's a quaint, it's a small time travel story, but it's responsible in the sense that you don't have to think about that too much because it's only 3 years. They can still meet and all that stuff. So, but it's a really interesting dynamic and a small puzzle in terms of how do you save her? How do you get to the point where she can meet him and he'll know who she is? So,
Yeah.
A couple things I want to throw out there. We've already kind of talked about a lot of the story. The animation's fucking fantastic in this. It's a anime movie, so I expected that, but it's really good. Every scene was just gorgeous to look at. Not even just because of the animation, but the design was insane.
The detail is incredible.
Every scene was just. This is probably one of the most beautiful anime I've ever seen, like visually. It's fucking gorgeous. The landscapes are just beautiful to look at. The details are immaculate. The mundane scenes, which I hesitate to even call it that, but like the more like just kind of scenes that are just kind of not a whole lot's being accomplished are just gorgeous to look at. And then of course like all the sky shots are just like incredible looking. I absolutely loved the way they handled skies, which was a huge theme in this movie, with the different colors, and that the meteor looked insane. I was wondering what that was about. I remember seeing the trailer. I'm like, what's up with the meteor? Like, is it just like a cool looking like thing? But it's obviously a big part of the story. But yeah, this movie is just insanely gorgeous and met with a great soundtrack. It's just like an experience. That's the thing that I really enjoyed about this. I'm glad it wasn't a full-length anime but a movie, because this is just like an experience that needs to be locked into this time frame that worked so well. Super effective. I really like the story. I really like the characters. I like the way it played out. The ending's not super obvious, but it's makes you think for a second. Obviously you assume everything's going to work out, but I like that they didn't just, give that to you. And yeah, it had a lot of fun scenes. There's a lot of subtle humor. I wasn't cracking up a lot like during this movie, but there's a lot of funny stuff, like the constant theme of anytime Taki took over Mitsuha's body in the morning, her sister, starts with a Y, something as well, she would always like come in to tell her like she's got to get up to eat or go to school or whatever, and she would be like just sitting there grabbing her own boobs, and she would just sit there and like yell at her and then slam the door every time. She would just say something, go boom, and slam the door. And a scene that was really funny is towards the end when she's crying while holding her boobs and she starts crawling at her. She just like slams the door and she walks out and she's like, she's lost it. She's finally lost it. She's like, I'm just going to go to school alone. And she's walked out the door talking to herself. She's like, she's actually lost it. She's crazy. So that was kind of a funny build up to that situation. Man, what else? I could just sit here and keep talking about the visuals that were just insane. I really loved this, just like the shots and stuff. They're not shots, but like one of the scenes where Mitsuha is like running through, I think it was Taki while being in Mitsuha, but running through the woods, but the angle was like upward through the tree line, passing over her head, and you could see the meteor. It was like, that is fucking gorgeous. It was a beautiful shot, and there's so many visuals like that in this movie. But
this got treated to like day, night, rain, snow.
Yeah,
like,
they were really showing off. There's just one scene where it showed rain on the ground with reflections, and it was just beautiful looking. And then also this movie, I love the kind of contrast between the country life and the Tokyo life.
Yeah.
Even the scenes where you're seeing the meteor from Itamori, and then you see the trail of the meteor from Tokyo at night, and it's like gorgeous. But yeah, overall, really great movie. I liked it a lot. I think the story is awesome, especially with all the anime we've been watching lately, which has just been like a lot of action stuff, which I love.
Yeah.
But there's so much more out there when it comes to anime, and this is just like a legit, just like movie. This actually kind of made me lament the loss of Western movies and not being able to make heartfelt movies like this via Hollywood. But you can get them here, and I appreciated that because this wasn't an action movie. This was pretty much a romantic movie.
Yeah.
That had a lot of emotion. I really appreciated that. It's refreshing to watch and completely worth watching. And really, even like you said, if this came out like 6 years ago, it's insane looking now still. Like if I would have saw it then, it probably would have blew my mind. But even in 2022, the very end of 2022, almost 2023, it's an incredible experience to watch. It's an experience. It was awesome. So I really liked it.
Yeah, I'm curious because I know the studio who at least animated it has done more stuff, but I'm curious if it's the same writers or not.
Yeah, I'd be curious to look into, because this is our first time watching this, obviously.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see who directed it, what studio made it, and who the story's from, and see if they've done other movies. Because, I mean, if this was like a calling card of like, if I need to watch somebody else's work or these people's work on something else, it worked because it was very good.
Yeah, and it was actually really reminiscent of like, and I know, everyone knows Studio Ghibli at this point, but like, I remember like those coming out and just like, they were always like these super, and they're still great movies, but they were like super impressive for their time when they came out type of deal. And this reminds me of that a lot.
Oh yeah.
Obviously the themes are a little different, but it was great. Like you said, I don't really get to watch movies anymore because no one was really making anything like of note, with a handful of exceptions. And so I'm so used to just sitting down and watching like a series at this point, or playing a game, because that's where all my stories are coming from at this point. So, so yeah, that was nice to be able to sit down and do. I definitely will probably keep my eye open for more like anime only like movies and stuff like that, because that was a lot of fun to sit down and experience.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to have like a one and done kind of situation. Obviously, certain things you want the saga, the chronicle, but this was effective in the time that it had. So, yeah. And I've always liked anime movies, so it was nice to watch a newer one because I haven't watched one in a long time. But it was definitely worth it, and I definitely want to watch some more of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you have anything else to say?
I'm just gonna keep gushing about the way it looks and and the scenes, shots, whatever, that they did. So,
what would you grade it?
I can pretty confidently give it an A+. I honestly it didn't feel like an hour and 44 minutes. I have 0 moments where I was bored. I have no nitpicks. Like, it was just a good time. So, and the story was enough to make me feel, some emotions towards it too, which is sadly hard to do. So, bravo.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it A+ too. I couldn't imagine giving anything less. It's great in every way. Visually, it's stunning. Animation's fantastic. Story's good. Characters are good. There's nothing negative about this movie. Everything checks out. It's really good, and I don't know if I'm gonna find a whole lot of other anime movies of this quality. We gotta explore that a bit, because I just watched this and I'm just like, is there other ones like this? Because this is really good.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a bunch of them. I don't know. Maybe there's none. So, but yeah, easy A+. It was stellar. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing bad. It was all good. So all really good. So really liked it. And yeah, I would highly recommend it. So I keep saying that when I'm doing full spoiler reviews, but just throwing out there, I'm definitely going to be telling people to watch this. So I'm going to probably make Sarah watch this. And yeah, anything else?
Feel free to suggest movies if you think we should watch them.
Yeah, 100%. If you're thinking like, oh, you should definitely check this out, let me know in the comments. We'll definitely take those suggestions to heart. But let us know in the comments, what do you guys think of Your Name? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What do you think about the art? What do you think about the animation? What do you think about the story? Is there any details or scenes in the movie that we didn't talk about? Because there's a bunch of stuff that happened here that you might have wanted to talk about or you have opinions on. And again, recommend a movie or even a series or even like a normal movie, whatever. Just give us a recommendation if you want of things you'd like us to watch and review. And yeah, I've been Seth, this has been Chevy, and until next episode, we will be starting either another movie or anime soon. Since we finished Chainsaw Man, check out our finale review. But until then, have a good one, and we'll talk to you guys later.